I got more hits than Sadaharu O. Shout out, Beastie Boys. What is
Absolutely.
up, everybody? It's 8 o'clock. It's Thursday. It's Uncovered. It's the Raiders. Unrivaled. I am here. Biggs. Raider Damas is here. What's
Hello.
going on?
It's been an
How you
interesting
doing?
week. I am doing very well, very well.
How's the week interesting?
Well, the Raiders decided to bring back a couple of their defensive tackles from last year, and also
Yeah.
signed a new running back. Which I thought they would sign a corner. I guess they could still sign Tre'Davious White, who I believe remains unemployed, if I'm not mistaken. I know they did meet with him, but he has a couple of other meetings scheduled. But they did bring back, Big John Jenkins. Love big man touchdowns, so I love me some John Jenkins.
Adam Butler.
And Adam Butler, yeah, he was a really big part of the defensive line success last year, and I'm glad to see that they're bringing back the guys who are actually good. And adding them to Christian Wilkins, and I think the Raiders' defensive tackle room is probably filled at this point. We talked a lot about them addressing that in the draft, but at this point, I really don't think they have to. This is why a lot of draft talk is probably useless before free agency has run its course because of things like this.
I mean, draft talk is pretty useless before the draft. I recall several years when I was commenting a lot daily, every post on Silver and Black Pride, way back in the good old Levi Damien days before Bill, in the BB times, when I would do fan posts about like, oh, this mock draft and oh, that mock draft, and I would fall in love with guys, and the Raiders never drafted 01, and it was always a disappointment. So for a while I was like, you know what, I'm not even going to do any scouting because I don't want to know who we're not getting that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I think this year I'm going to do a shadow draft, and I would like to invite you to do the same. We can both do Raiders shadow drafts and see how that goes. And because I've never done that before, and I've always wanted to. And I think this, especially having the Uncovered Raiders Unrivaled channel, subscribe, and comment. Let's get the comments fired up and all that stuff. Hit the bell so you know when we're coming on next Thursday at 8, like clockwork. But yeah, we can totally do it. We can even make it like a fan-generated thing. The fans can get involved, and we can talk about who we each take in our shadow drafts, etc. Yeah, there was some news. We'll get into most of it. I like the Adam Butler signing. I think I commented on Twitter when somebody reported that Mattison and Tre'Davious White were in the building, and I said Mattison can kick rocks. Do not let Tre'Davious White leave. The opposite of each thing happened. I'm not mad about it. Not necessarily happy either. I really want Tre'Davious White. One guy that we talked about last week, the guy from the Panthers, the former first-round pick, that I forgot his name,
C.J. Henderson?
C.J. Henderson signed with the Texans today.
He did indeed. The Texans are cleaning up in free agency. They're getting a lot of guys that they want.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think it would be too far out on a limb to say at this point that the 3 top defensive coordinators in the league right now, not historically, but the 3 best minds are the guy in Houston, Ejiro Evero in Carolina, and Patrick Graham in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I've been a fan of D'Amico Ryans since he was a linebacker in Alabama. I was a fan of him during his playing days. Been a big fan of him as a coach the entire time, and I'm not at all surprised that he's having the success that he is because he's a brilliant mind, deserves everything he's gotten.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to hit the end. Well, I'm going to tell the producer to hit the intro, and then we're going to get into some of this talk. Yes, there was some news that happened, but we don't have a very extensive show tonight. It's going to be pretty abbreviated, but we do have some very, very interesting things that I want to talk about, and you will too. Okay. Sweet. And shout out to Mike Greinberg at FF Canuck 99 over on the tweets. My partner in crime and the director of this Uncovered program, doing that video. I like it. All right. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Also, for those of you who didn't get my Mr. Rogers reference, shout out Mr. Rogers. Okay. Alexander Mattison. Tyler, your reaction.
I believe this shows their faith in Zamir White as the number one running back, even more than letting Josh Jacobs walk. Because Alexander Mattison has proven exactly one thing in his entire career, and that's that he's not the number one back. He is an excellent, elite complementary running back as long as you have a number one running back already. And the Raiders apparently believe that they do. So if you are out there looking to draft a running back early in your fantasy draft, look at Zamir White, because he may go, a lot later than, your Christian McCaffreys, and the premier running backs in the league. But he is in line to put up some serious numbers this year. And I think Alexander Mattison will spell him just enough where Zamir White can be extremely productive.
One thing that I learned from playing fantasy football is there are certain guys who are really good at being backup running backs, and teams have learned their lessons. Like the Cleveland Browns learned that lesson about Kareem Hunt, and the Dallas Cowboys learned that lesson about Tony Pollard, and the Minnesota Vikings learned that lesson about Alexander Mattison. So now we're on solid ground moving forward with the idea that we have Amir Abdullah and Alexander Mattison in the running back room, and Zamir White is our lead back. Now, for those of you who don't necessarily follow my other stuff, I want to invite you to search in the Google machine for Player Profiler News. I have a little write-up about the running back situation in Las Vegas, in which I extol the virtues of Zamir White and the fact that he is our RB1. He's a top 20 running back in the NFL with top 10 upside, and the reason for that is extrapolation of statistics from the last 4 games of last season, in which Zamir White went over 100 total yards in 3 of the 4 games. I want to say that the first of those 4, Jacobs played in but left. So Zamir White only really started 3 of those games. I might be wrong on that, but it looked like there was some statistics in week 14 that Jacobs contributed. But over 100 total yards in 3 of those 4 games. He averaged 4.3 yards per carry. He averaged about 4 receptions per game, or targets per game, which is really great because it means that he can get the ball to the tune of 50 to 60 times in the season, which is exactly the pace that Josh Jacobs always carried. He also averaged 21 carries per game in those 4 games. Now, Jacobs usually was averaging around 25, 26, and Zamir 21. But if you take that 4.3 yards per carry at 21 carries per game and extrapolate that over the course of a 17-game season, you're right in the area of a 1,500-yard season for Zamir White. Whoa! And it's absolutely possible. I'm totally counting on it. Not 1,500. I'm counting on at least 1,200. He's going to have a season. He's going to put himself in the top 20 conversation, and I am absolutely here for it. That doesn't mean that they're not going to draft a running back, because most NFL running back rooms have 4 guys in them. There aren't a lot of waiver wire guys because all of the running backs got scooped up. But who are we looking at if we're drafting besides Bucky?
I still think Jalen Wright is a good option. I think at this point, Isaac Grendo is a good option. There's probably 40, 50 guys out there who would be good options. But at this point, with 3 pretty solid running backs, if the Raiders don't like the price on one of the guys or don't like the positional value on one of the guys where they would have to take them, they don't have to do anything. It would be perfectly reasonable to go with Britton Brown or Sincere McCormick or get another guy as a UDFA. You do not have to draft a running back. You're not forced into it if you're the Raiders right now.
True.
And signing Mattison gives them that that level of flexibility, which is another reason why it's a good move. As far as Zamir White goes, I think the most important thing for him as far as being a fantasy back is the same reason that Josh Jacobs was a productive fantasy back, is that it was Josh Jacobs was his own goal line back. A lot of guys have goal line carries vultured by other running backs on the team. Josh Jacobs never really did. He doesn't have a Zach Crockett on the Raiders right now stealing goal line carries. And it'll be pretty important for Zamir White to establish himself as his own goal line back and show that he can handle that load in order to be that, top 10 fantasy running back, which I think he can do. I think he's big and strong enough to do that.
Yeah. I mean, he's 6 foot, 210. He's just slightly smaller than Jacobs, weight wise, BMI wise, but he is far more athletic than Jacobs was. So a lot of the one cut runs that Jacobs wasn't great at, Zamir White is going to be able to handle that. The other thing is there's kind of been some negativity about his production because in those 4 games that he started, he only had 1 touchdown, but that'll change as the season progresses. I would like to see a situation where they draft like a Jonathan Brooks because he can kind of come back from his injury or whatever and be a very similar running back to Zamir White, maybe with the possibility of overtaking Zeus at some point. Similar to what the Raiders had with Josh and Zamir both in the same room. But some of the other guys like Isaac Guerrero would be a great candidate. Bucky Irving as, like to eventually take over for Amir Abdullah in that 3rd down role. And also Dylan Lobby out of New Hampshire. He has a profile that matches Danny Woodhead. And if we had a Danny Woodhead in our backfield to go along with Zamir White and then Alexander Mattison and Amir Abdullah as insurance, I think that would be a pretty good situation. So you guys watch out for Dylan Laube, Laube, running back out of New Hampshire. I like that guy. Do you have any thoughts on Dylan Laube?
Honestly, I've never seen Dylan Laube play. I have heard the name come up quite a bit over the course of the draft season. People seem to really like him. There's a couple of other guys, Isaiah Davis out of, I believe, South Dakota State. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And Ray Davis out of Kentucky. I think are guys who are going to be rising in the draft and go probably a lot higher. Not the Kinks.
Kentucky, no, not the Kinks.
Not Ray Davies. Ray Davis.
Oh, yeah, okay. Speaking of Kentucky, what the hell?
There are some people who are born to choke, and Kentucky is full of them.
Well, as a huge fan of Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox, both formerly of Kentucky, I think I had at least a couple of brackets with Kentucky winning it all, and they lose on day 1. Come on! Anyway,
the tournament is always better when a couple of those big-time programs go down in day 1. And so you have some Cinderellas who go far, and eventually they'll lose in the Elite 8 to another really good program. That's just how it works. But for today, people have hope, and that's okay.
I totally agree, except when they're my picks.
That's on you, brother man.
I know, and so I honestly this year I usually casually watch college basketball, and then the NCAA tournament is a basketball a day for me. But this year I literally watched one college basketball game, and that was the other night when UC Davis was playing against Hawaii in the Big West Conference semifinal, which Davis went on to play Long Beach State in the final. And if they had won that, they would have played Arizona today. But they did not win, and that was very upsetting to me. But I didn't even watch that game. That was the single game. So when I did my brackets, it was basically like I am an old school guy that's used to paper brackets. I used to cut them out of the newspaper and make them, even when there weren't any pools or anything, because I've been doing this since I was like 12 years old. But now these websites, these newfangled websites, they have an option where you can like have your bracket auto-filled by chalk or expert picks or some algorithm or whatever. And that's mostly what I did this year. One that I was in, I named the entry, I like the colors, and I did go through and I made my picks individually based on the colors of the uniforms, because somehow somebody doing that always wins. So hopefully, I haven't looked at my brackets today because the games aren't over, but holy shit, Kentucky. I mean, eat a fat one. But this is the Raiders Unrivaled from the Uncovered on the Undroppables. This is not a basketball channel, even though it's a tournament. All right. This is where we start to get spicy. You like spicy? I like spicy.
I am a spicy guy.
All right. I was looking at the first round draft situation the other day, and I was also looking at the teams that are quarterback needy the other day. And this was basically brought on by Minnesota trading for another first-round pick. So now they have 2 first-round picks with which to trade up to try and get into the number 3 or number 4 spot to grab scuttlebutt is J.J. McCarthy after Caleb and Drake May go. And I started thinking, what are the Raiders going to do? In my mind, there are really 2 targets in the top. Okay, first let's start this. The consensus quarterback rankings in the NFL draft right now are Caleb Williams number 1, Drake May number 2, Jaden Daniels number 3 with a little bit of wiggle room, JJ McCarthy number 4. Then that's the first tier. And then you have another tier that basically goes Bo Nix and maybe Michael Penix. People are trying to steam up Spencer Rattler. And then the next tier after that starts with Michael Pratt. There are only 4 situations. We'll say 5 situations that I like. I have the drop off at Bo Nix being the final quarterback that is good enough to start for an NFL team next year. Michael Penix can be argued. But in a perfect world, I don't want either of those 2 guys. My targets are J.J. McCarthy and Jaden Daniels. So I'm looking at this thing. We have the Broncos. I'm looking at the first round, the top 13 picks. We have the Broncos in front of us. We have the Giants in front of us. We have Minnesota, who's a player 2. Washington has the 2nd pick. New England has the 3rd pick, and they're definitely taking a quarterback. I mean, Belichick would have traded back, and then you have Arizona with the number 4, who don't necessarily need a quarterback because they have Kyler Murray and Clayton Tune in the building. And Caleb is going number 1 of the Bears, period, which is fine. Which begs the question, how do we jump enough to get to the 3 from the Patriots or the 4 from Arizona? The only realistic scenario I see, unless the Patriots are really happy with a Bo Nix or a Michael Penix, because everybody has to understand at this point that if you're not in the top 4, you're not getting one of those top 4 quarterbacks. Correct me if I'm wrong in that assumption, but I was really struggling to find a path forward for the Raiders to get into the 3 or the 4 pick. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are it's going to be difficult, and it might not matter, and I will get into that in a little bit. The way forward that I see is this. If there is a team out there who does not go with the consensus and believes that J.J. McCarthy is, in fact, the best quarterback in this draft, or even the 2nd or 3rd best quarterback in this draft, and they trade up, and the Cardinals either go with Marvin Harrison Jr. or believe, rightly so, that they as a team are not a wide receiver away from competing and decide to trade down for more draft capital, because if I were them, that's what I would do. Mm-hmm. And that opens up absolutely everything. That opens up the Raiders to get Drake May. That opens up the Raiders to get Jaden Daniels. That opens up the Raiders for a massive amount of flexibility if a team were to jump up and take J.J. McCarthy, because at this point, I think there might be a few teams out there who think he's worth it. Would a team be willing to trade down? I don't know. Would the Patriots take J.J. McCarthy themselves and drop either May or Daniels, whoever falls to them, down to the Cardinals pick where it's open season because the Cardinals have already said so. They said there's a big neon sign says we're open for business. At that point, if you're the Raiders, whatever price you have to pay to get to that pick and take whoever is there is certainly worth it. But I want to go for a second to the 2006 NFL draft. There may be some who are watching this show who are too young to remember such a thing, but I am not.
Or were too drunk in 2006.
It is entirely possible because the Raiders were absolute dog water in 2006. But if you may recall, that 2005 was the year of Vince Young, where he beat USC by himself. The previous year, he beat Michigan in the Rose Bowl by himself. Vince Young was really, really something, as was the guy taken before him, Reggie Bush. Now, the guy who went number 1 overall, I'm working backwards here. The guy who went number 1 overall was a bit of a surprise. The Houston Texans took Mario Williams out of NC State number 1 overall. Reggie Bush went next to the Saints. Vince Young went third to the Titans. The next quarterback taken was Matt Leinart, who was taken 10th overall by the Cardinals. And the guy taken directly after him was taken by the Broncos, and that was Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler, I would argue, of any quarterback taken in this draft, had the best career. He is the leading passer in Chicago Bears history, and it, I believe, is massively underrated by people who follow the NFL as far as how good this guy was. He was absolutely incredible.
And also by Bronco haters.
And by Bronco haters and Bear haters and anybody who knows the history of Jay Cutler and his lack of care for the game and apathy and wanting to smoke on the sidelines and all that stuff, all the memes about Jay Cutler. We have a lot more memes than we have information about how amazing this guy was on the field. He was fantastic. So you can get a guy in the middle of the first round and have him be absolutely amazing. You don't have to pick, in the top 5. There were, only 3 out of the top 5 picks made the Pro Bowl. And the only Hall of Famer, and in fact, the best player in this draft, was taken in the second round at pick 57, again by the Chicago Bears, and that was Devin Hester, who was primarily a kick returner or punt returner. So the draft is an absolute crapshoot. You never really know what you're going to get. Any Raider fan who is, kvetching about not being able to get into the top 3, top 4 to get their guy should just go look at the careers of Vince Young and Matt Leinart. Those are the teams that succeeded at getting what they wanted, and look what they got for their trouble. I mean, honestly, just scout harder, and you'll get somebody good.
No, and this all goes back to my original concept of Aiden O'Connell is the starter in Las Vegas and build the rest of the team around him because he is functional and capable, if not mobile. I'm still on board with that plan.
I mean, if it ends up that way, then it ends up that way. If the Raiders decide Terry and Arnold is the first round pick, you know what? God bless him.
Yeah. The only problem with the Aiden O'Connell talk is that it's almost impossible to say something and to say that you are pro Aiden O'Connell without a whole lot of backlash because Jaden Daniels is out there. But I like J.J. McCarthy more than I like Jaden Daniels, and I will plant that flag, and I will not apologize for it.
And that's perfectly reasonable. I think the reason that we're not – a lot of people don't take Aiden O'Connell seriously as quarterback of the future, potential, is because of Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert being in the division. And Raider fans believe that they have to have a guy on that level to compete. Whether or not they're correct remains to be seen. But Aiden O'Connell he's no slouch. He's good. Is he the long-term quarterback of the future? I don't know. I'm glad that's not my call to make. But he hasn't proven to be a complete bust or a waste of a pick or anything like that. He's proven to be pretty freaking capable. Is he as capable as the other guys in the division who are winning Super Bowls? No, but really, who is? If the Raiders right now were in the NFC South with the Falcons, Saints, Buccaneers, and Panthers, Aiden O'Connell would be a king.
To be fair, there's only one quarterback in the division who's winning Super Bowls. Then you have Jarrett Stidham. I mean. Right. But Aiden O'Connell's better than Gardner Minshew. He's better than Jarrett Stidham, and he's better than Easton Stick. So is he better than Justin Herbert? I wouldn't ever say that. Is he better than Patrick Mahomes? I don't think anybody is. So third in the division, that's not bad. And if you have a top 5 defense, which the Raiders look like they may, you can do a lot of things with a quarterback who is mid-tier 10 to 20.
Well, I'll tell you this. I stayed up the last 2 nights because I'm a filthy degenerate to watch the Dodgers and Padres play 2 games in Seoul, South Korea. The Padres have a tremendous offense, and they have a lot of potential. And because of their lack of bullpen, they are going to spend $200 million to finish 4th place in the National League West.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of money and a lot of potential to squander on your weaknesses. So I think the Raiders owe it to themselves to figure out the quarterback position one way or the other and to at least try to shoot for the moon. Even if you think you have something solid, I think because of the division you're in and because of your immediate competition, you have to at least give it a shot.
Okay, so with that in mind, let's look at upside. I believe of the options that are pretty much available, because Caleb is not, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, and Jaden Daniels, in that order, have more upside than Aiden O'Connell. Okay, so we have to look at how we're going to get up to get one of those guys. We're going to need to trade the 13th pick. It doesn't look like the Chargers are going to want to do that because that's an in-division trade, and that very rarely happens, if ever. The Patriots probably want a quarterback unless they're fine with moving forward with Bailey Zappi or Jacoby Brissett. So they're taking somebody. So that's 3 quarterbacks gone right off the bat, which leaves the 4th pick, which is the Arizona Cardinals, and everybody has them taking Marvin Harrison Jr. But what if the Las Vegas Raiders step in, give them the 13th pick, with which they can take somebody like a Ladd McConkey. They can take a Malik Neighbors if he's still available, a Romo Dunze, somebody like that.
Yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. is a more realistic expectation at 13, I think.
Brian Thomas Jr. And we give them Davante Adams. Because if later on, we can supplement.
Marvin Harrison. I mean, you're trading like an amazing wide receiver prospect for an amazing wide receiver prospect, and you wouldn't have to move down. I mean, you could do that, but I mean, Davante Adams is already these 31, 32 years old. I mean, how old is Davante Adams? He's in that range. I don't know if that makes sense for the Cardinals because they got to do what the Raiders did to shore up their defense before they go doing anything else. I think this is a bad draft for them to have the 4th pick in. Last year would have been a much better draft for them to have a high pick in, and they traded down repeatedly, which was fine, except they got to do, like I said, they got to do what the Raiders did. The Raiders took care of their defense first and let the success come from there. I think the Cardinals have to do that because they haven't had a good defense in, almost 15 years.
Okay. So last night or yesterday, my big project was creating a spreadsheet for fantasy football purposes, tracking analytics of wide receivers in the draft. And why can't I find it now? Dang it. It's gonna take me a second. I know I saved it. Where is it? Okay, here it is. All right. So Basically, the Undroppables released a graphic, and that graphic showed the rankings of players in a bunch of different metrics. The first one was first downs per route run, which seems to be a highly correlated metric for receiving success, not just in fantasy football, but in the NFL in general. The second one was yards after the catch per reception, missed tackles forced per reception, and yards per route run for both man coverage against man coverage and zone coverage. Some interesting things came in the model that I created. And one of those interesting things was that Marvin Harrison Jr. was the 6th ranked aggregate. And that blew my mind because he is the consensus number one. And I know that body type, age, and legacy have something to do with that. And they will all contribute to his success. But when I took the first downs per route run is the most important, so I'll multiply that number, that ranking number, by 3, and missed tackles forced per reception, I'll double that, multiply it by 2. So we have first downs per route run times 3, ranking times 3, missed tackles forced per reception times 2, yak per reception, and then yards per reception against man and zone. Tallied it all up, and the number one receiver in the class, without much surprise, aside from the fact that MHJ is number 6, is Malik Neighbors. Number 2 is Ladd McConkey. Number 3 is Jamari Thrash. And those make up 2 different tiers. Malik is just far and above everybody in his own tier. Ladd McConkey and Jamari Thrash are about the same. Next, Malachi Corley, and number 5 is Troy Franklin. What that means to me is that if scouts are doing their job, you can trade out of the number 4 if your intent is to take a wide receiver and get a wide receiver by some metrics better than Marvin Harrison Jr. So that trade would give them the 13th pick to do that, and also Davante Adams while that rookie wide receiver gets up to speed, or give them the opportunity to have an instant wide receiver 1 for Kyler Murray for next year's purposes and use the 13th on another piece that the Cardinals might have a need for. The bottom line is that Davante Adams is the only piece that makes trading the 13th pick a better deal than Minnesota trading 2 first-rounders to the Cardinals. That's my whole point in trading Davante Adams. I don't think there's another piece on the Raiders that would equal or better getting those 2 firsts from Minnesota.
I agree with what you just said. I think it does make sense if that's what you want to do. The problem I have is this. If you're the Raiders and you're trading up, you're obviously targeting a quarterback. There's no question about that. And so you want to trade him, or you want to draft him to a team whose best receiver is Jacoby Myers. Because then you're just the 2021 Patriots. I think you want to draft a young quarterback to a team that has Davante Adams on it. Unless you're like targeting wide receiver repeatedly in the rounds 2 and 3, and if you're making that trade, you might not have picks in rounds 2 and 3.
Well, that's the thing. Malachi Corley, Jamari Thrash, those guys are going to be available later, and they are showing up based on analytics to be as good or better as some of the wide receivers that are going in the top 10. Those factors are that can be attributed to narrative in the NFL draft space. Those things don't always necessarily correlate to performance on the field. There are look at Puka Nacua. He became one of the greatest rookie wide receivers of all time, and he was a 5th rounder. There are 4th rounders that have been top 10 receivers in the NFL. It's pretty standard. It moves along the same kind of lines as what you were talking about with not necessarily focusing on top 5 pick for a quarterback who's going to be successful, because a lot of it has more. Everybody who's coming into the league is uber talented. Situation, coaching, and development have a whole lot to do with how successful somebody is. Some of the most steamed up wide receivers that we've talked about on the show before, like Kevin White, Michael Crabtree, when he was coming out, he was a consensus wide receiver 1.
Troy Williamson.
There are guys everywhere, and they don't always pan out. That's not the likelihood of Marvin Harrison Jr. panning out and being an elite wide receiver is really, really high. But based on some performances and in context, there are some guys that look like they're going to be better that can also be drafted later. So that's what drives the narrative. That's what drives the discussion, and what makes what we do so fun.
Well, I am as big an analytics and numbers nerd as anybody, but I'm also really big on the eye test. I like to watch a guy play and see if he can ball or not. And I've seen Marvin Harrison Jr. play a lot. I watched Ohio State games. And I would be extremely surprised if there are 3 players better than him in this draft. And I'd be shocked if there were 2. I mean, this guy is absolutely A-plus cream of the crop prospect. Now, is he going to pan out? Who the hell knows? I mean, like
not on the Chargers.
Well, nobody really does now, do they? I mean, but as with any prospect, it depends on the coaching staff they go to, the situation they go to. But Marvin Harrison is the kind of guy who can succeed more or less anywhere. I mean, I'd like to see him go somewhere he can thrive. I don't know if Arizona is that place because I don't think anyone has ever thrived there. They haven't won a championship since 1928.
Larry Fitzgerald is the one.
But Larry Fitzgerald is a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest talents at wide receiver of all time. Mm-hmm. And he like Harrison, I think, is a guy who can succeed wherever he goes. It just sending somebody to Arizona is just so scary to me because of their history as a franchise, the way that they're run, the complete dysfunction in their front office and their football operations. I think if anybody can overcome that, it's Harrison. It gives me the heebie-jeebies.
I know how scary sending people to Arizona is. I have 2 sons that live there. All right. So I just wanted to provide everybody with some clickbait. Trade Davante Adams. I don't know how this draft is going to go. I'm really scared that I mean, I have Raiders traumatic stress disorder. I just have this uneasy, sinking feeling that it's not going to go the way that I want it to. And I'm going to have to fend off the trolls and justify their picks and, talk about upside, whether or not, I mean, I've done it so often in my life that I don't necessarily want to do it again. I just want a perfect draft where everybody is a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro and we win the Super Bowl with our rookies starting. It's just, is that such a difficult ask?
It's not. It's just, I remember the last first-round draft pick for the Raiders I really, really didn't like was Colton Miller. And that pick panned out pretty darn well.
Right.
So maybe I should just shut up.
I wasn't thrilled with Colton Miller, but I loved Alex Leatherwood. so
I didn't like him, but not as much as I didn't like Colton Miller. But Colton Miller is the king, and we love him.
All right, we got Big Corey coming to the stage. What is up?
Hey, Hey! White people is punctual, nigga. I got here 3 seconds ago. I'm already back up front.
How are you doing, man?
I'm doing spectacular, nigga. I'm low key drunk. I'm hot in this bitch, and I've been enjoying myself. What y'all talking about?
I had a big fat martini before we got on, and I'm pretty loose too. And when we call it quits, I'm gonna go hit some gummies, because that's white people shit. All right,
that's white people shit. Hey, so real quick, hold on. Speaking of white people shit, because I don't know. Oh yeah, first of all, I'm not familiar with you. I thought your name was Raider Dimos. I thought you was gonna look totally different.
My name is Tyler. I am Raider Damas, as in I tell the future about anybody.
I thought you was a die move, nigga. I thought this was gonna be a whole different conversation. But anyway,
just making fun of people. That's what I do.
Oh, so what I was gonna say before I got sidetracked. I'm sorry. I was talking about, speaking of white people shit. I'm gonna be honest with you, so I'm gonna ask you. You said that you had a fat martini before this.
Yeah.
What is that, nigga? What's a martini?
Gin. You put gin in a shaker with ice. You make it as cold as possible and pour it into a glass and drink it quick.
That's it. A martini is just a glass of gin.
It's gin and vermouth and some olive juice.
That's a dirty martini. You put a little vermouth in it, which is a fortified wine, not like Thunderbird. It's like an Italian thing.
Wait, so y'all niggas is taking shots of gin and making the shit sound fancy. Y'all just the winos, just like the winos in the hood, nigga.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's about 3 ounces. So if you take one down, it's pretty strong. But sometimes I'll go to the bar and I'll ask for it with no vermouth, so it's just straight gin.
Hey, you got a Broncos hat on, nigga?
No, this is
okay.
Flying Squirrels. This is a Giants affiliate.
Flying Squirrels. My bad.
I got my Raiders cred all over the place.
Yeah.
Big
I was
Corey,
confused.
Big Corey, you guys. Tyson on the mic. Go to Twitter and follow @big_Corey. And follow him on YouTube because he doesn't like to do Raiders losses, but his recaps of Raider wins are the funniest shit on the internet, period. That's it.
Wow.
And
shit. I didn't expect you to say that shit. I appreciate it.
Huge fan. I mean, I don't laugh. There were games last season where I was like, I don't care. I want the Raiders to lose because I want a better draft pick, but I want them to win so I get a big Corey up, right? I mean, it's the funniest shit. The other thing, and so right now in this live stream, I have 2 of the funniest content creators in Raider Nation because Raider Damas, his articles on the Raider Ramble are the funniest words, right? It's like if you were writing shit.
No shit.
And yeah, it's because
I apologize. Let me fuck with your shit.
He talks shit about cities and just rips them. And yeah, some of the funniest shit I've ever read about Andy Reid.
Send me a link on Twitter or a DM or some shit like to one of your things so I could go fuck with it.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. And I think Raider Ramble may have retweeted one of my shits or something in the last couple of days. So yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, Mike Tyson's been popping up on my Twitter feed an awful lot lately, so I'm quite familiar with your work, sir. And
I appreciate you.
Quality shit, sir.
Yeah. Okay. I got respect amongst my peers. I feel important.
Yeah. And I mean, you can't look at the Twitter comments and not feel the love from the nation. I mean, everybody who is familiar with your shit is totally down and it's great. So just come in here and get steamed up and we're good. So I got to ask, you're in Arizona.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you in the Phoenix area?
Yeah, I'm right by the monsters, bro. Yeah, I'm in the middle of Phoenix.
I got 2 boys that live in Phoenix. My youngest son just moved down there in August and he moved in with his brother. So where do they go eat in Phoenix? What are the big Corey recommendations?
Okay, so you go. It depends on what kind of food they want. They want some Chinese food. They got to go to the West Side window. It's off of 7th and Buckeye. It's called Lu Yin.
Like Lu?
Liyen or some shit like that. But it's Lu Yin. That's their name. So that's the West Side window. They go to that shit. If they like fried chicken, if they do that shit.
Yeah.
All right. It's the AZ Fry Guy. It's a food truck, but that's the best fried chicken in Arizona, period.
Okay. My son is a cook and his plan is to get a Cajun food truck going. Gumbo, jambalaya, but real shit. We have family in Louisiana, so we don't fuck around. We make Cajun.
Okay.
and Creole. Like sometimes we fuck around with tomatoes, but
he might like Baby K's. He might like Baby K's and Mesa. It's a little. It's Cajun and Creole. It's pretty good. It's a little tad bit watered down, just a little bit. It's not gonna be like you're not in Louisiana, but it's still pretty good.
Okay. Food truck. All right, I'm
Baby K's is in Mesa, so yeah, you might like that.
And
I'm such a fat motherfucker. Man. I could talk about that. You talk about that shit. I got excited, nigga. I think I'm sweating a little bit.
No, and check this out. So this is all on the Undroppables umbrella. Undroppables is a fantasy website. It's all fantasy content, except they came up with this concept to do team specific things. So one content creator per team. I got the Raiders. My partner in crime and my fantasy stuff, Mike, he has the Chiefs. But each one of us is doing individual content. Now the team, the Undroppables team, we've thrown out this idea called the Chef's Corner. So it's going to be another separate Undroppables channel, separate from Uncovered, separate from the Undroppables. And it's just because there's like 8 of us that are all cooks, former chefs, chef instructors. Like we're all down with food and drinks and all that shit. So that's all coming too. And on April 6th, I'm going to be live streaming a barbecue karaoke night at one of my dudes' houses, and it'll be right here on the Undroppables network. So April 6th, look for that, everybody. I'm excited.
Where are you at? Hold on. I'm gonna talk to Raider Domus for a second.
Sure.
I haven't asked him nothing. I don't know yet.
That's
you
all
cool
right.
in the bitch, but where are you at, Raider Domus?
I am in I'm in outer Montana. It's just me here. No one else lives in Montana. Actually,
Montana?
It's a huge state. It's like twice the size of Colorado. There's about 1 million people here. It's mostly me and the moose who live up here. Basically,
you seen moose outside?
I've seen moose. Yeah, man. They just walk into people's yards like they fucking own it.
Fuck up. Are you serious?
Oh, I'm serious. No, the deer, the elk, the moose, they all just walk around like they've been.
Are you fucking with me because you know I'm not gonna be able to know if you tell the truth?
No, man. When I went to California, I saw lots of cows. Here, man, I see deer. But the deer walk through my yard every morning. You know, that's like.
So how big are these fucking moose? How big is?
Oh, dude, the moose. I'm like 5'8". They're taller than me. Up to where you could ride them, and then their heads are 2 feet taller than that. And
they will kill you.
Their antlers are wider than my wingspan. These things are like trucks. They will absolutely murder you without a second thought.
Yeah.
So what the fuck? So what do you do when you go outside and you just go back in the house, right?
You just go back in the house because if the moose is there, it's their yard now, and you don't live there anymore.
I used to live in Alaska. I lived in Alaska, and I came out of my office one day, and there was like basically a road width from my office door to my car, and I walked outside, and there was a moose standing right in front of my car, and I walked out and did the Simpsons thing, just
straight around. Fuck that.
Yeah, you will die. And then we had one that came and posted up in our yard for a weekend. It just it would get up, eat some buds off the trees, shit, and then go find another place to sit.
Hey, so you just had to be in the house. Fuck it.
Well,
we had no straps. You go home, you bust some shit in the air. Do they leave?
No.
Oh, they not even scared of no gunshots. They fuck you.
They also it's also illegal to leave vegetables and stuff on your fence to feed them because they won't go away.
Who has to tell you that for it to be illegal?
Your neighbors. your neighbors.
Man, the deer and the moose are not afraid of people. They're not afraid of roads. They are not afraid of cars.
So have you seen bears and shit?
The first day I got here, I was in a restaurant in a rural area, and all of a sudden I heard people say, "Bear, a bear!" Now,
how come you didn't leave?
Well, me as a city boy from Oakland, born and raised in Oakland, California, I'm like, "Oh shit, there's a bear! Let's get the fuck out of here!" No, everyone else in the restaurant got up and left and went to go find the bear to look at it. I'm like,
what the fuck?
You white people are fucking insane.
I didn't say that. I'm
sitting there eating my dinner, and everybody else comes in. Oh, it was just going through the dumpster trying to find some food, and it was it was so cute. I'm like, it's a bear. It's not cute. It will
It's
murder
a fucking bear, bro.
Yeah, but they went out there just to look at it like it was no, but like it was no big deal.
Yeah, no, fuck that. I'm not fucking with that. That's crazy to me. So I feel like a Montana expert. You know why? Everybody. I'm watching motherfucking Yellowstone, nigga. So now all of a sudden, I know shit about Montana.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it's wild up here. It really, really is. Even in the cities, it gets absolutely nuts. The deer.
I'm in season 2 and I haven't seen a black person yet. Is that how it is in real life?
I think there's like 3 black people in my town. They're like, they're like leprechauns. It's like magical to see a black person in the wild up here.
We fictional out there, nigga. We're real. I swear to God.
Oh, sure. In the cities, like in Billings or in Missoula or Bozeman, there's plenty of black people because those are college towns. And they have basketball teams too.
Get the fuck out of here.
No, but
there's black people. We play basketball.
In a town like I live in, there's not a whole lot, so it's special. It's exciting.
So that's crazy going from Oakland to Montana. Why did you do it?
Man.
Oakland to Montana.
Well, I was married at the time, and my wife got a job here, and her family is all here. So I found myself here, and I just have never left.
Yeah. It's because there's a fucking moose in your yard, nigga. You scared.
I can't leave.
You're fucking not allowed.
No,
Absolutely.
He won't let me leave.
You better go get you a fucking musket.
Yeah, his name is Warden Moose.
Now, Yellowstone fucked up, and they know it because when they started doing the spin-off shows, they started putting black people in the cast.
Shut up. Don't tell me nothing about the spin because this is brand new to me. Don't tell me nothing about Yellowstone.
It's fair. It's not spoilery. So they made shows afterwards, 1883 and 1923, and it's basically the Yellowstone family, but in those eras. And in one of them, I think it was the 1923 one. There's black people in the town. So, yeah.
Wait a minute.
In 1923.
Wait a fuck that show, nigga. I'm not watching this shit no more. Watching fuck this show. Hey, what's his name, bro? It's the Kevin Costner. Fuck you, nigga. Kevin Costner with a K. I'll just. Nigga.
Dances with Wolves. He's down. He's all right.
He made good movies. Hey, I fuck with Draft Day. I found out later that that's a bad movie. I guess.
Not a bad movie.
I like it.
Anybody who doesn't like Draft Day has bad taste. Vontae Mack, no matter what.
Yeah, there you go. I guess. I don't want to agree with you. You're fucking nuts. You went the first day you were there. You saw fucking bears and moose, and you decided to live there. So I can't act. We're not on the same side.
That's just how it goes.
Draft Day is fun. It's not real. That's all. But it's fun. It's a fun movie.
So do you think that it's going to be real this year? So what's going to happen? Do you guys believe that the Raiders are going to magically jump up and get the quarterback of the future?
That's what we were talking about. And I was saying I don't see a path to it unless we trade Davante.
I don't personally believe that the Raiders are going to be able to trade up into the top 3 or 4, like realistically. I think trading up with the Falcons is an option, and getting, Bo Nix or Michael Penix or JJ McCarthy, if he's still there, which I have my doubts that he will be. I think Bo Nix is the most realistic option for the Raiders at this point.
Bo Nix, how long has that motherfucker been playing college football?
Bo Nix is 87 years old. He won the very first Heisman Trophy in 1936, and his eligibility just ended. So he's going to be in the NFL.
I swear, I don't know I haven't Googled or nothing, but I swear I've been listening to Bo Nix this and Bo Nix that for a long time. It wasn't Bo Nix on Game Day 98. I'm like, God damn, man.
Yeah. He was.
If you played John Madden football in the early 90s, sometimes if guys would get injured, an ambulance would come out and get them off the field. Bo Nix was driving in the ambulance in those games.
On Super Nintendo.
Absolutely.
Shout out El Capitan Rafucho. Real quick, Raf, I just need to correct this. It's Biggs not Big Z. It's just Biggs. But yeah, that's
You just couldn't keep
just
going
wanted
with
to
that
correct
one.
that. Well, no, I mean
Yeah.
he had me on his show. He's a great guy. He's like been in the comments section before, and he's super cool. So I just wanted to. It bothers me. I have a question for you fellas. What about TJ Tampa from Iowa State cornerback? He's very talented, consistent. That could be a fit for the Raiders.
I don't know. I don't know shit about him.
I don't think he's a first-round prospect, but I think if he's there if he falls to the third round, which I think is entirely possible, I think he's definitely an option there. I think the Raiders do need to address cornerback in the draft, whether or not they sign Tre'Davious White. And I think he's as good as option as any. I mean, there's plenty of really good cornerbacks in this draft, and he's certainly one of them.
We lost Big Corey. All right, 6'1", 189 pounds. Next gen stats 78, which is good. 75 athleticism, scores 17th in the cornerback rankings. He's currently ranked as the 6th combine cornerback. NFL comparison is Rasul Douglas. I don't hate that.
Raider legend.
Yeah. Not good against slippery route runners, so he couldn't handle Hunter. And not a great open field tackler, but so he comes out in nickel packages. I don't know, lacks top gear, but he looks okay. 6th ranked cornerback according to NFL.com, and a Rasul Douglas comp. Of course, it took Raider legend Rasul Douglas a few years to kind of get up and running, but yeah, I don't hate it. Later, Terry and Arnold in the 1st, and TJ Tampa in the 4th. I like that.
Yeah, you could do that.
To go with Jack and Tre'Davious and kind of help lessen the blow of Amik.
Yeah, I am very happy for Amik going to Detroit, which is a good team, and getting paid. But I will miss him an awful lot. I think he had a lot to do with the character of the defense as far as his just sheer ankle-biting tenacity. The Raiders are going to miss that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we still do have Nate Hobbs, so that would be a pretty stacked cornerback room if we could swing Tre'Davious and Terry and Arnold. That would be pretty nice, especially with Jack in the building. Like that. That's a pretty damn good backfield. I don't know if Corey's coming back, but that's fine. He's funny as shit.
I can tell.
Yeah, I'm sure Rafuccio already follows him. But yeah, everybody else go follow @big_Corey. Funniest video. He clips up the videos himself. He actually has he and Kenny are on a pod together with Killer Mike or Raider Mike, and yeah, they put out a lot of good content. A lot of the cooler nicknames, like Big Train Spillane and oh crap, what's the one he has for Michael Mayer? Paul Bunyan and and of course Farva, and Black Team Ya Bitch is when we win. That's all Big Corey content. So I'm gonna go and tweet him or send him a link to your writing stuff in the DMs and call it a night. It's been an hour and a good hour. We had a surprise guest pop in. That was good to see, and some good conversation, and that's what we're here for. So, let me pay a bill real quick. Oh, okay. Rafuccio's back. I mean, Raiders defense had to improve a lot after the Josh McDaniels failure, but they're still looking for veteran or young talent, which is linebackers, tacklers, guards, special teams. True. I think they will do just fine in putting together their special teams. They seem to typically do that. That's always a focus of Raider football. Linebackers, I don't think is as much of a need as we think. I mean, we do need some injury insurance for Diablo and Spillane. But I think the linebacker core is actually pretty good at this point. But it would be nice to draft somebody with some upside. Guard is definitely got to be a focus. I appreciate you, Refugio. Thank you for popping back in. I'm going to run this commercial real quick. And thank you, everybody, for watching.
What up, nation? The 2023 NFL season is over, but fantasy football season never stops. You can already draft for the 2024 season on Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play fantasy football. The Big Board is a pre-NFL draft fantasy football contest with all the incoming rookies in the players pool, even the ones the Raiders haven't drafted yet. Draft your team in 20 rounds, and that's it. You leave it alone, set it and forget it. In best ball format, you get the optimal score to fill your starting lineup. A great way to get your dynasty startup draft fix without any league management at all. It's only $10 to enter, and over $2 million in prizes are up for grabs. How much of that do you want? Be sure to sign up for Underdog with promo code UNDROPPABLE. That's UNDROPPABLE, and you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100. You put in $100, that's 10 leagues. We will give you 100 more. Sign up today.
And real quick update for anybody who's into the tournament right now. We have upset watch on 3 out of the 4 games that are happening. Texas Tech is down by 12 to North Carolina State with 6:52 left in the game. We have North Carolina State, the 11 seed, against Texas Tech, the 6 seed. That's what I just said. 65-51. Drake is up on Washington State. Sorry, Cougs, 54-51. Kansas, of course, is taking care of Samford, but more upsets on the way. Anyway, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Hit the bell. Thank you, Tyler, for co-hosting once again. We will see you next week at 8 o'clock on Thursday, and fuck the Broncos.
Peace.